years of the luxuries of the US of A to be able to bask in Kedushas Eretz Yisrael, the Avira of Eretz Yisrael, the Kedusha of Yerushalayim. You guys are great. Okay, everybody, I want to share something with you. You know, this week, it's past Shabbos, Parshas Vayigash. I'm sure you all know the famous Medrash. But this week's parasha, Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan says, "Woe is to us from the day of judgment after 120. Woe is to us for the day of rebuke after 120 when Hashem will give Teichacha." What's the proof? Uma Yosef. You ready for this one, guys? Yosef, when he rebuked his brothers and he told them, "Ani Yosef," Nivalu mipanav. They got so bewildered and overwhelmed and they couldn't answer him. Kama v'kama, kol shekain v'kol shekain. When Hashem is going to rebuke a person after 120, he won't be able to stand up to the rebuke. Rabbi Isai, where in the world did Yosef rebuke his brothers? All he told them was, "I am Yosef. Is my father still alive?" Any rebuke? He told him, "I'm your brother." Where's the rebuke? My Rosh Hashiva, the Balamus say, "Murdik Pshat," but Hagdama to the Pshat. I'll tell you a little story I heard from my Rosh Hashiva and tells, or a gift is Zechayim Livracha. He said he once met a Yid. I think it was in the late 70s, in the early 80s. It was like 25, 30 years after the war. He met a Yid, totally non-religious. No yarmulke on his head, no tzitzis, no Shabbos, no tefillin. And he meets him in Brooklyn, somewhere in Borough Park in Flatbush. And the guy tells him a gift in Yiddish. Oy, v'yisglus sacharayin in a shul, how I wish, I yearn to go into a shul, to sing l'chadaydi, to hear a kel odain, to sing on him zmirais. Like a gift looks in like, what in the world do you have to do with l'chadaydi and kel odain on him zmirais? And the guy tells him, before the war, I had tzitzis on my shirt, I had pelach, I had a casket on my head. I used to go with my father, 9 years old, to the Rebbe, Friday night, l'chadaydi, Shabbos morning, Shalosh Shudas. Then the war came, and I lost it all. The Gita tells him, but I don't understand. You want to go into a shul? Here in Borough Park in Flatbush, every street corner is another shul. Why can't you go in? Good invitation, eh? And the guy tells him, Rabbi, you don't understand. The second I walk into a shul, I am telling myself I lived a mistake for the last 35 years. I can't do that. I can't come to terms with that. I gave everything up after the war. To walk into shul means I've not been living a mistake. Unfortunately, I have to face the facts after 120. What I'm trying to bring out is rebuke is teichacha. One of the forms of teichacha is that you're brought to a point that you lived a mistake. You come to the recognition you lived a mistake. The brothers of Yosef for 22 years, they were going around. Yosef had these dreams, these crazy imagination of becoming a king. He's going to be ruling on us. He was a Baal Lashon Hara. We made a mishpat. He was Chayav Misa. We had Rachmanis. We sold him as a slave. He's a slave somewhere. And here there's the second in command in Egypt who's making us all crazy. And they've been living like that for the last 22 years. And all of a sudden, with two words, Ani Yosef, they realized they lived a mistake. He was right. His dreams were right. He's going to become a melech. He's not a slave. He's the king. We're bowing down to him. Everything was an avua. The joke's on us. That is teichacha. With those words, Ani Yosef. So too, Lasad Lavi, the Medrash says, a person is going to come to Shemayim after 120, and he's going to get teichacha, you lived a mistake. Now, you'll tell me some non-religious guy, a guy who's not Shem Torah, Shem Mitzvahs, Machal Shabbos, he lived a mistake, I understand. But the Medrash says, when Hashem will give rebuke, l'kol echad ve'echad, we lived a mistake. We're Baruch Hashem, Shem Torah, mitzvahs, from a Yidden. We lived a mistake. Okay, we did Avera here, we did Avera there, but we didn't live the mistake. Rabbi Yisai, I want to tell you something. I heard this probably 25 or 26 years ago from the Mashgiach, Reb Don Segel, Yeshiva Gesund Stark. It was a yard site of a friend of ours that was nifter, relatively young, tragic, whatever it was. He was like 52 years old, 53 years old, and he got hepatitis, and his child wasn't well, his wife was away, and the kids, their little young children at home, and he didn't want them to tell anybody, and he went unconscious. They made a liver transplant, so he didn't make it. Every year, on the yard site, his almana used to make a yard site here in the house. In the second yard site, Reb Dunn came to speak. And he said over something from the Chazon Ish, and I will not be able to stress it enough. I do not mean to talk about the people that the Chazon Ish was talking about. But the Chazon Ish said something which sent a shudder up my spine. It sent a shudder up my spine, and I got shaken up to the core. I personally, I'll give you the Hagdama to what he said. I personally grew up post-Holocaust, born in 1960, 15 years after the war. My father went through Russia, went through Siberia, and all friends and neighbors are all people who went through the war. And I came to a very interesting recognition. No person who went through the Holocaust in any level of Emunah or Bitachon walked out in the same level that they went in. Either they walked out of there strong, like who knows what, they didn't budge, Ad Kedei Kach, that the Satmarov, when he left Eretz Yisrael in 1949 to go to America, they asked him, who should we go to for a bracha? Some is Hasidim. And the Satmarov said, go to any shul in the morning and you see a guy pulling up a sleeve to put on tefillin and there's a number tattooed on his arm, you could go and ask him for a bracha. If after the Gehenim that he went through, he's putting tefillin on that top of that number, you could go to him for a bracha. But at the same time, there are many people who lost their emunah. I was growing up and I always said to myself, I can't judge these people who lost their emunah. Do you know what they went through? The Gehenim that went through my father's brother, my uncle, a little younger than my father. He spent his yeshiva years, like from 11 to 16, 4 to 15, in the camps, and he told me that was his yeshiva chinuch. Unfortunately, he didn't have yeshiva chinuch, but he came out of Firma Yid. He opened up Moshav Kavimius for 8 shmitas. He kept for 56 years. He had a farm that kept shmitas for the Chazon Ish. It was zecher to children, grandchildren. He himself remained on words, but he loved Torah, he loved Yiddishkeit. He told me, if I would just tell you some stories that I saw, he says, when I was a kid, your hair would stand on end, you would be able to sleep for months. So I was never judgmental. Rabbi Yisai, again, I don't want to talk about those people, because that's not my message. I want to just tell you what happened to me. There was one person who had no rachmanis on those people who lost their emunah, and that was the Halak Chazon Ish. But again, I don't want to talk about them. I want to bring out the point that he said. He said, take a cup of water. Fill it up with water. Take some sand from the beach. Mix it into the cup. Put it on the table. The sand will all settle down to the bottom, and the water will be crystal clear. Shake the table, and the water's going to get all filthy again from the sand. Chazon Ish said, if a person goes through life and he gets shaken up from different things which happen in his life, and his emunah gets shaken up, you know what that means? It was really filthy the whole time. It was rotten the whole time. It was just lying dormant. Nothing brought it out. Now, I don't want to talk about the people that he spoke about. I heard those words, and a shudder went up my spine. I was walking around. I felt I'm a maimin, I'm a boiteach, I believe in Hashem, ani mamin emunah shlema. And then I started thinking to myself, and chas v'shalom, Chazar Hashem Shev Rachmanis, no one should know about these tsars. If I would go through what these people went through, would I be steadfast? How do I know if it's real? How do I know if it's not really filthy? It's just lying dormant. And it was then that I chapped. I better do something. I better do something to really steig, to really grow, to really become strong in my emunah and b'bitachon. But how do you do it? There's one way. There's one way. The Gemara says in Makkas, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Moshe Rabbeinu 613 mitzvahs. David HaMelech made 15 generalizations. Yeshaya made 6. Micha made 3. Chavakuk made 1. What was the one that Chavakuk made? Bo Chavakuk ve'min al-achas, the whole Torah on one side, on one foundation. V'tzadik be'emunasoi yichyeh. I always thought that it meant that tzaddik lives b'schus his emunah. Because of his emunah, he's yichyeh. V'tzadik be'emunasoi yichyeh. From that Gemara and Makkas, I understood a different shot. It's not telling us b'schus what the tzaddik lives. The Gemara is telling us, Chavakuk is telling us, what is the essence of a tzaddik? The tzaddik. You want to know what a tzaddik is? Be'emunasoi yichyeh. He lives his emunah. A tzaddik is emunasoi yichyeh. He lives his emunah. That's a tzaddik. Whoa. How do you live your emunah? I've seen people living emunah. I had, before the yeshiva I'm in now, in the Israeli yeshiva, Masif, there was like a high school, 13 to 16 year olds, 13, 14 to 16, 17 year olds. I had 3 brothers that lived by me over a period of 3-4 years. I didn't even know the mother was sick for 9 years with cancer. 1 year in military respect. I didn't even know about it. One time I spoke to the mother, I didn't even know. And she was Nebuch Nifter at 48 years old. A young woman, Naomi Rinat, her name was, I won't forget those days. Every kid was a gem. She grew up on a kibbutz. She came about Shmuel at 18, 19, and she lived till 48. And I went to Menachem Ovel, and the oldest boy, Avremi, he tells me, Harav, Israeli kids, he tells me, Harav, 2 days before my mother was Nifter. 2 days or 2, I think it was 2 days before, 2 days or 2 weeks before his mother was Nifter. He says she called him over and his older sister. She called him to the bed, sit down on the bed, and he says we have a recording of it, but it was so hard for her to talk. This is unbelievable. And he said, his mother told them, him and his sister, you saw what I went through these last 9 years, the treatments, the pain, the suffering. 1 year in the middle, I had a little bit of a respite. I want you to know, I see where it's heading to. I see my end is near. I want you to know, I am leaving this world without an iota, without a mashu, chas v'shalom, of complaint, or tina, or taina, or something chas v'shalom against the Ribbono Shel Olam. I am leaving this world with a heart full of gratitude to the Ribbono Shel Olam. And he tells me that for the next 20 minutes, she kept them on the bed, and she started telling them all the chasadim that she had in her life, how she became a balas tshuva, how she found her husband, how she was zeichet to have such a beautiful family of children, how they were zeichet to have an open house, how they were zeichet to do so much kira for chaykin, how much they were zeichet to do so much in her life, and just grateful and just overflowing with thanks to Ribbono Shel Olam. That's living emunah. That's living emunah. And I was sitting there listening to this thing which we've done from Chazon Ish. Where am I holding? How do I live emunah? I'll just tell you one other episode of living emunah. I was also blown away. A friend of mine, we learned together in yeshiva. His father, Reb Meir Miller, his name was. He was a Rav in Bat Yam, here in Eretz Yisrael in Bat Yam. My friend's sister, this Rav of Bat Yam's daughter. She was 56 years old. She was nifter also. She was sick. Her husband was a big Talmud Chacham. He has a sefer on Makkas actually. By the Levaya, the father gets up there and he says, there's a Yid in his 80s, probably 85, 86 years old. He gets up at a Levaya of his daughter. Rabbi, you know what it means to live emunah? Listen to these words. This is not to believe. And he says, what can I say? What seems to be such a tragedy, just to thank the Ribbono Shel Olam for his chesed. wondering. And he explains, this is crazy, and he explains, HaKadosh Baruch Hu put us in this world to do mitzvahs, to do Ratzon Hashem. There's 613 mitzvahs deraisis. 365 loises says 248 assays, lots of drabonans. There's one mitzvah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us, the mitzvah of avelus, of sitting shiva, of mourning for one of your 7 relatives. And he said, my wife and I are, we're almost finished. Life is almost coming to an end. I'm close to 90. My wife is not too far behind me. Life is almost finishing. We both went through the war. We both went through the Holocaust. We both lost all our families in our lives. We never had the opportunity to sit shiva, to have one of our kroivim die, which we know the date, and we're able to sit shiva and be mekayim the mitzvah of avelus. Now, as we're coming towards the end of our lives, Hashem is giving us this opportunity. It's the only way possible, by taking one of our children, because it's only one of the 7 relatives that we have left, that we could shiva for. That's living Emunah. But I was young then, and I didn't want to live. I felt that this is mamish. You come to the next world. We lived a mistake. We thought we were really Bali Emunah, but Hashem knows the truth. If we would get shaken up or tested, who knows who we would be? And I was thinking to myself, how do I start living? How do I start working? How do I start steiging in living Emunah? And I decided 4 steps. I don't have enough time for all of them. Let's just start with step number 1. Step number 1 was Pashit, to start being Mekayim the mitzvahs of Emunah. We're all sitting in this room, we're all from Yidden. I don't think Chas v'Shalom, any of us are Kaifrim, are Apikorsim, are atheists. But when was the last time that we really, really were Mekayim the mitzvah of Emunah? And probably a good 30, 35 years ago, when my kids were young, and by the Shabbos table, one Shabbos morning, my wife, Shmuel, came to the table. She found a story. Back then, the Yated Ne'eman used to come out in English once a week. She read out a story, and I'm telling you, my kids grew up on this story. This is what they lived on. Probably I said the story over probably 1,000 times by now, probably, could be even. It's so beautiful. The message is so powerful. There was a fellow who lived in the times of the Holocaust. A young man, he was 36, 37 years old. He had a wife, 4 or 5 children. They're living together in the shtetl with parents and uncles and aunts and everything else. Like back in the day, that's the way it was. There was no traveling around. Everyone lived together. The kids of the Nazis, Yamach Shemam, came into town and they took everybody away. Everyone was separated, the wife from the children, the husband from the wife, etc. This guy was in the camps for a year and a half. It was from 43, middle of 43 till 45, and he persevered. After the war, he went looking around for his family, wife, children, parents, uncles, aunts, siblings. Over 2-3 months, he found out here his father was shot, here his wife and kids were taken to the gas chambers, and here his uncles would die from hunger, and then he was left with nobody. Mama, she was left the only one from his family. From when he found that out, you couldn't speak to this guy. Every 20 seconds, 25 seconds. Ay. Everyone knows the story about what happened to you. You lost the whole family. You could just cry along with him. His kids, his friends saw, this guy, he's going to have a nervous breakdown. But he's a young man. He's 39 years old. Get him to America. Let him start life. His friends, beautiful friends. That's unbelievable. After a war, they got together. They started collecting money. Kapikit to ruble, until they bought him a ticket on a boat to go to America. He's sitting on the boat. Every 20 seconds, people ask, what happened to him, and you can just commiserate with the guy. He comes to America, there's somebody waiting for him by the pier to take him home. He takes him, brings him coffee and cake, lets him stay with him for a week or two till he finds a place. Every 20 seconds, he just cried with the guy. The mice, they found him a job. He was a tailor by trade in this huge factory, like 300-400 people, sewing machines in there, and all of a sudden this new guy comes in there, and it's like, there's a harmony, zzz, a half a year later, found him a shidduch. He's walking down to his chuppah, and everyone just think, he thinks of the past, what he had, what does the future have in store? It's Rachmanis. A year later, he has a boy making a shalom zacher. Mazel tov, I have simcha, you have simchas, Titzkel Gato, thank you very much, A year later, you made a daughter, you made a kiddush, It's going on for 5, 10, 15 years. He's still and people are saying, you got a good life. He has 6, 7 kids already. He has a beautiful house in the middle of Flatbush, and he's still His oldest son was 17 years old, learning in Miri Yeshiva in Flatbush, and one evening before night seder, after supper before night seder, he knocks on the door, and his father sees him. What are you doing here? He says, Tati, I want to speak to you. Please come in. He takes him to the study, sits him down. He says, Tati, I don't want to be chutzpahdik, but what's going on? I know you had a big family, wife, children, etc., but, Hashem has been so kind. Why are you still crashing and moaning and groaning about what happened? And his father tells him, Rabbi Isai, listen to what a Yid is. Listen to what the neshama of a Yid is. And this fellow tells his kid, I felt people were talking behind my back, but I felt I don't have to answer it to anybody. You're my son, I'll tell the truth. You ready for this, guys? He says, when I came to the concentration camps with 2 of my friends, we were put in those camps, get into those pajamas, so to speak, got a piece of board to sleep on, 100 grams of bread a day to live on. But one thing we made up, we're all from Yidden, we wanted still to be connected to the Rebbeinu Shalom. How are we going to do it? There's no Shabbos, there's no Yom Tov, there's no Lulav, there's no Shofar, there's no Chanukah, there's no Yom Kippur. We decided, but one thing we could do, daven we could do. On the way to work in the morning, we had to march down to work for 45 minutes. We davened Shachris. On the way back, we did Mincha and Ma'ariv. And the Nazis used to walk along with us until after a week or two, he heard this chanting going on. He says, Zid, Vasidas, what's this? We're just praying. Took the butt of his rifle. No, this is not a place for praying. I don't want to hear any more prayers here. We come back, what do? Some of us remembered some Mishnayos about that. So we'll learn. We did Mishnayos Gemara, it's a different chant. After a while, the Nazis again realized, what's this? No, we're not praying. What are you doing? We're just studying Torah, Bible, Talmud. No, nothing Jewish here. So we came back to the camps, broken. Nothing, no Elam Hazeh, no mitzvahs, but we still want to be connected to the Rebbeinu Shalom. And we decided, there's one thing, Rabbi say, this is not to believe what a Yid is. We came to the conclusion, there's one thing that the guy, the Nazi, Yamach Shemai will appreciate. A krecht, a moan, a groan of a Yid, that will be bliss for the Nazi. So we decided we'll give him that bliss, but at the same time, we're going to do 6 mitzvahs with everyone. Hashem gave us a Torah. Most mitzvahs, you need some kind of an object, a lulav, a siddur, tefillin, a tzitzis, a Chanukah, you need something. But Hashem gave us 6 mitzvahs, which are 24/7, 365. You don't need any object besides your head and your heart. And those are the 6 mitzvahs tmidiyos. Sheish mitzvahs tmidiyos. The 6 constant mitzvahs, which the Chinuch writes, that any time a person thinks of any one of those mitzvahs, he's makayim a mitzvah asay de'oraisa. And we made Rashi Tevis of the 6 mitzvahs. 3 aleph and 3 yuds. I. The guy thought we were moaning and groaning and we're going along, and Emunah achtus ave, le'yelecha, yireh le'sachil v'avchenechem, we took the v'nechem, and we waited into the thing. Isn't that phenomenal? I just want you guys to remember this. So I wrote it out for here. Just give out these papers. And there's a bottom of something else. I'll tell you in a second what the rest of it is. If you don't mind giving it out. Here, guys. Here. Here. The bottom part, I'll explain to you in a minute. Any more? You guys any more? Hope I made enough. You can be lying in your bed, you can stand in the bank waiting in line, you can go into my coat, you can do whatever. Here you go. You ready for this, Rabbi Isai? 6 of them. 3 olives and 3 yuds. Emunah, Achdus, Avas Hashem. Emunah, Echad, Avas Hashem. Lo yeh lecha yireh Shemaim, like Islam, each one is Emunah. Every time you hear this guy, it's unbelievable. The Chesed of Hashem. You just think about it. You're Mekayim and Mitzvah Seder Eyes. It's crazy. That's the first step in living Emunah. That's the first step in living Emunah. It's crazy. Emunah. Take the first Ani Mamin. Ani Mamin Emunah Shleima. Shaboy Yisbarach Shmoi, who boirei, he created everything which exists in the world. Every tree, every blade of grass, every pussycat, every human being, every tree, every table, every piece of metal. Hashem created everything, and everything exists because Hashem is giving it the koyach to exist. This is existing because Hashem right now is giving it the koyach to exist. If you would say, I don't want it to exist, he would just take away his hashgach. Just disappear. Just disintegrate. Just wouldn't be. And everything which is happening in the world is coming, Hashgachas Hashem. You make $1 million, you lose $1 million, you bang your finger, you cut the bus, you miss the bus, you make a phone call, you get through, it's ringing or it's busy or someone answers. It's all about Hashgachas Hashem. Every time you think about that, you're Mekayim a Mitzvah Seder Eyes. Isn't that crazy? You'd be lying in bed, sitting over there twiddling your thumbs. Wow, everything in the world is replaying Hashem. Mekayim Mitzvah Seder, it's phenomenal. Whatever you do, it's crazy. It's myotic. It's a phenomenal thing. And then, the second one is Echad. There's only one Hashem. Hashem Echad, which goes together with the Lo Yeh Lecha Elohim Acherim. The Yud of Lo Yeh Lecha Elohim. You should have different gods. That's the Lo Yisaseh, and that's the Aseh. That's the positive commandment. That's the next. Don't believe in anything else. Believe in Hashem. So there you have another 2. Just think, there's nobody else. Just Hashem. You're Mekayim Mitzvah Seder Eyes. It's crazy. Avas Hashem. Avas Hashem. How are you Mekayim the mitzvah of loving Hashem? Rabbi Kiveger and Chassam Sofer. You heard of Rabbi Kiveger, you heard of Rabbi Kiveger. Rabbi Kiveger, Chassam Sofer. They both asked the same question. How could there be such a mitzvah to love? Love is an emotion. How can you put a gun to your head? Either you love me, I'm going to kill you. You ain't going to force love out of anybody. It just doesn't go like that. How could there be a mitzvah to love? Says the Rabbi Kiveger and the Chassam Sofer. The mitzvah is not to love. But Shlomo Melech says, when you would just know how much you're free, a heart of a person mirrors his friend's heart. If you would just know how much your friend cares for you, you would get a love for that friend. Because if he cares for you, you'll care for him. If he loves you, you'll love him too. The mitzvah is not to love Hashem. The mitzvah is just to think about all the goodness and all the kindness and all the benevolence that Hashem bestows upon you. You have 2 hands, you have 2 feet, you have 2 eyes, you have 2 ears, you're healthy, you have parents, you have a spouse, you have children, you have siblings, you have a roof over your head, you have a Gvaldik Yeshiva, you have Rabbeim. Just think about Hashem. He owes you anything? You have a contract with him? You owe him nothing. Just take one time, I'm breathing. Wow. Where's that coming from? Because Hashem really cares about me. He really cares about me. And you get just think about that. And that's Avas Hashem. And then there's Lo Yeh Lecha, we said. And then there's Yirah Shamayim. How do you kind the mitzvah of Yirah Shamayim? With a fleeting thought. One word. Accountability. Hashem knows every action that I do, every deep word that I speak, everything that I hear, everything that I see, and everything that I think. And I'm going to get either reward or punishment for everything. Just thinking about that. He knows everything, and there's accountability, there's reward and punishment. Could you imagine? And then there's the last one. And the father tells the son, we took the yud of Einechem to make the Rosh Tevis, which there that mind should not be busy with hearsay or chas v'shalom with machshavos, which are not tahayos. 24/7, you hold yourself back. That's gewaldig. And the father tells the son, after doing the war, we're doing I. Listen to this. After the war, we got tzitzis, we got tefillin, we got Shabbos, so I dropped it. But then when I found out that I lost my whole family, I felt the same way. Naomi in Megillas Rus, she went away from Eretz Yisrael with her husband and her children to Moav. And she lost all her money, she lost her husband, she lost her children. She came back to Eretz Yisrael, an almana with no children, with her 2 daughters-in-law who were also almanas. And the pasuk says over there, she came back and she said, Ani malei alachti, I left here full and I'm coming back empty. This guy tells his son, I felt the same way. My whole family at large came here and I'm the only one walking out of here. And I said to myself, no, I am not leaving here empty-handed. There's one thing I'm taking with me for posterity, and that was, I. People thought I was krechtsing, people thought I was moaning, people thought I was groaning. I was just doing 6 mitzvahs all the time. Wow. Isn't that phenomenal, guys? That's the first step in living Emunah, And step number 2 is the next thing that I wrote for you. Those 7 things, I made it a Rosh Hashanah, and I'm telling you, you do this, I wrote it just that Rosh Hashanah and what the words are. If you do this, guys, life is bliss. Life is so enjoyable. Life is a machai. These are the 7 things. And I just made it my own Rosh Hashanah because I really wanted to know it. And I'm telling you, think about it. You might need a pen maybe to explain them, but I'll tell it to you. Machat Dina are the 7 things. It's written down over there. Machat Dina. There's no the Rosh Hashanah has no, the Bivesh has nothing. Just for me to remember him. 7 things that the Chovos HaLevavos says that a person has to believe about a Kadosh Baruch Hu to be able to be a Baal B'tachon, to be able to be, how do you say B'tachon in English? To be able to trust. That's a trust. You know what B'tachon means? Trust in Hashem means to say, in all circumstances, you're calm, you're CCC, calm, cool, collected. You don't get overwhelmed. You don't get rag. If you believe in these 7 things, you could just sail through all situations. It doesn't make it easy, but it makes it livable, palpable, and you know something? Enjoyable for it to a certain extent. You know, swimming, I was having to swim, I used to start swimming, I want to lose weight, I started swimming. Wow, you do 50 laps, boychik, it's hard, and you're huffing and you're puffing, but you enjoy it. Doesn't make it, enjoy it, do difficulty, one is do the other, it's not, but it's still, you know, Avram Avinu, the Medrash says, this is crazy, guys, this is crazy, but you get, the Medrash says that Avram Avinu, when he stretched out his hand to take the knife to Shech Yitzchak, was he dancing or was he crying? Says the Medrash. He took his hand to take the knife, to grab the knife to Shech, the son Yitzchak. The Einav and his eyes, Zolgois Demais. He was crying like a baby. The Einav Zolgois Demais. His eyes were crying like a baby. Me Rachmanusa Shel Zachin, from the Rachmanus of this old man who's going to lose his child. Difficult. You know what the Medrash says? These are the most powerful words. Aber Ubelibai, in his heart, Sameach. He was ecstatic from joy. La sois Ritzayim Kainai, to do the will of the Rebbeinu Shalom. It's not a contradiction. It's difficult, but I'm so happy. Not even though it's difficult, no, because it's so difficult, and I can do this for the Rebbeinu Shalom, which makes it so happy. It's amazing. It's beautiful. Oh, I'm telling you, I remember, I have to go. I remember the first time I saw the Medrash was a Friday morning, and I was living in a shul next to the house, an empty shul. So it was very shir in the morning, early in the morning, and my wife and I were both going through a certain, in Yiddishkeit, we wanted to, it was a sign, like, was that? And I saw this Medrash, and I called my wife, it was like 5 to 7 in the morning, after Shach, so I was in the middle of learning, and I called her, you have to come over. The shul was right next to the house. She came running to the shul, and I told her this Medrash, and I say, yeah, life sometimes is a little bit difficult, but it's so geschmack to stand up to the test. My wife then, she was very friendly with this guy, who the yard said, Don Segel said that Shmuel was in his yard side, so she used to go every Friday night to this Almana's house with her kid. She was very close to her, she was very friendly, and that Friday night, my wife told it to this Almana, and this Almana says, and years later, she kept on telling my wife that Medrash saved her. She missed her husband. She was left with 3 little kids, and another kid was a CP, cerebral palsy. She had a tough life. And I missed her husband. She would find herself crying. Sometimes she felt so guilty. She was makabel b'ava. This is what Hashem wants. I accepted b'ava, but at the same time I was crying. I felt so guilty. And she says, ever since she heard this medrash, it was a lifesaver. Yeah, I could cry. It's hard. It's not a steer to be makabel b'ava. It's a very big thing. But anyway, how do I get onto this? I forgot it. I'm just trying. Oh, how life is so blissful in all situations when you have these 7 things of the Chavos Avos. And I'll tell you quick, I mamash have to go. Machadina. Let me just tell you what the 7 things are. The first one, and you have to believe, there's no order to them. You have to believe all 7. If anyone is missing, you can't be about bitachon. About bitachon, the Chavos Avos says, is the peace of mind, is the serenity, is the menuchas hanefesh in all situations. You ready? Merachim, number 1. Mem, merachim. A person has to believe and really feel that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has the most rachmanis on me. There's nobody in the world who has mercy on me like Hashem does. Not my father, not my mother, not my spouse, and not my children, and not my brother, and not my sister. There's nobody who has rachmanis on me, has mercy on me like the Rebbeinu Shalom. I think you should add to that, who loves me or cares for me like the Rebbeinu Shalom. That goes into, because if you don't believe that, you can't trust in God. He can do everything, but he couldn't care less about me. No, you got to really believe it and feel it. And I'm telling you, it's so heartwarming to know. And when I say in Shemon Esrei, Akel HaGodol HaGibor V'Hanoim, I say a word of Akel, Rashi says Akel means Midas HaRachamim. That's why I think about how much Hashem loves me, cares for me, and has mercy on me more than anybody else. It's heartwarming. Rachim. Next. Ches. What's Ches? Chazak. Merachim. Machat. Ches is Chazak. Chazak. Machadina. Ches is Chazak. Chazak means strong. There is nothing which is beyond the capabilities of the Rebbeinu Shalom. There is no situation which is beyond the capabilities of the Rebbeinu Shalom. The doctor said it's spread all over, and you have just 3, and the person has just 3 weeks to live. It's not, the situation is not over. Hashem could still help. He might not want to. The decision might be yet not, but not because he can't. Chazak. There is no situation that is beyond the capabilities of Hashem to be able to help you. If you don't believe that, you can't trust him because the situation is ready to dire. Hashem can't do it. No, he could. And that's why I say Hakel, Hagadol, Hagibor, strong, big muscles. That's strong. There's no situation beyond Ches, Tes, Taiva. Hashem knows what's best for me, even more than I know myself. Because I'm telling you guys, I'm running a yeshiva, $2-3 million budget. I've been saying for years, Rebbeinu Shalom, the best thing for me would be if I would just win the $100 million lottery. I'll put $20-25 million for my kids and my grandkids, and take $75 million for the next 25 years. And Rebbeinu is taken care of. But, I think that's the best thing. But you want to know something? I came to terms with the fact that Hashem knows better and best. It's not the best thing for me. I had no idea why. Until the last 2-3 years, I started realizing why. You have no idea how close I came to the Rebbeinu Shalom because I needed $2-3 million a year. How much I counted him and davened for him and relied on him, etc., etc., etc. It's crazy. A person, a Yid, which I know, he was older than me. He was nifter quite young. Also, his children lived by me in the Israeli yeshiva, and he was sick with cancer for 2.5 years. He was a Magachir al-Khanan. He told his friends he suffered a lot. He says, guys, if you would just know how close I came to the Rebbeinu Shalom in the 2 years of cancer that I went through, all the pain in the Yisurim, you would be jealous of me. Taiva, Hashem knows what's best for me even better than I know myself. But if you don't believe that, with all due respect, Hashem can do everything, but doesn't know what's really the best thing for me. I can't trust in him. Next, Taiva, Machadina. I'll leave Dover and Hey and Ishtadas for the end. You'll see why those are the hardest ones. I mamash have to go. Dina Yud. Yud is Yedea. You have to believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows everything about me. He knows what I need. He knows what I want. He knows what's bothering me. And you know what else he knows? He knows what's really bothering me, and sometimes I don't even know myself. Sometimes you come to first day, you come to your chavrusa, and you're all agitated, and you're angry at your chavrusa, but it's not really church. Your mother-in-law gave you a phone call in the morning. He knows what I need, what I want, what's bothering me, and what's really bothering me. Because if you don't believe in that, you can't trust him. I know, God, you're the best. You could do everything in your soul, but you have no idea what I need. He knows all my situations and what I really need. It's phenomenal. Nedava. Nedava is also such a powerful thing. Nedava means donation. Nedava means volunteer. People walk around thinking, but I did Averis. I did bad stuff. Hashem hates me. He's not going to look after me. Nedava. Hashem will volunteer. You have to believe, and it's the emes. Hashem will volunteer and give a donation, even though you're not worthy. But since you're a Ben Yisrael, Hashem will do what's best for you, even though you don't deserve it. Sometimes the best will be that you should bring your finger. That could be. But he'll do what's best for you under all situations. That's phenomenal. Because if you don't believe that, you can't trust him. Because I know Hashem is good. He could do, but he's not interested in me. No. He'll, even if now goes Dover and Ishtadlus. These are the two most difficult things, but this is the emes, and this is where life becomes blissful. Dover and Ishtadlus. Well, it's the same idea. Let's start with Dover. Dover means thing. There is nothing or nobody in the world. That means to say, Daimim, which is an animate object, Tzemeach, something which grows, a living object, a Baal Chai, an animal, or a human being. Daimim, Tzemeach, Daimim is an inanimate object, Tzemeach is something which grows, Chai, a living being, an animal, and Medaber is a human being that could do good or bad to me, which was not predestined and preordained by the Ribbono Shel Olam. Nobody. You slip on the banana peel, it's not the banana peel that did it for you. Ribbono Shel Olam decided. You make a phone call and you got through, that's the Ribbono Shel Olam. And somebody punches you in the face. He decided to punch you in the face, but that he was matzliach to get the punch in your face because Hashem wanted it. And you make $1 million, you lose $1 million, etc. Nobody or anything could do good or bad to you. You have a Muslim what that means. I remember singing a sefer one time. We're a bunch of dogs. You know what a dog is? I'll tell you. You know what a dog is? I'll tell you what a dog is. Imagine there's a dog tied up over here. He doesn't see me. I'm holding a stick and I'm banging the dog with the stick. And the dog is tied up. He's jumping and he can't move anywhere. And the stick is hitting him. And he jumps on the stick, bites the stick, scratches the stick, cracks the stick, and is fuming mad at the stick. He doesn't see me. He just sees the stick. That's exactly what we are when we get angry at this guy for punching in the face or doing X, Y, and Z. He could not do nothing. He's just a stick in the hand of the Ribbono Shel Olam. It's crazy. It's phenomenal. But if you really believe that, you don't get upset. You don't get worried about nothing. And Ishtadlus is same exact thing. The same way that nobody could do anything good or bad to me. You want to know something else? I can't either. Ishtadlus. I cannot do anything good or bad. There's a din of Ishtadlus. I have to go to the business, I have to go to the office, I have to work, I have to do. But the outcome, that's the Ribbono Shel Olam. I am not going to make any difference. The Chavazova says, a guy decides to jump off the roof, Empire State Building, what's going to happen? Going to die, huh? No, depends what's meant to happen. If he's supposed to die, he'll die. And if he does die, he would have died anyway, but he'll get punished for he wanted to kill himself. And if he's not meant to die, then somehow, some way, he'll get saved and he'll fall on some kind of a punta truck, how do you call it, the beds, the mattress, mattress tub's gonna be going up, a little bit will fall right into the mattress tub and truck and then he can get saved. But he's going to use up a lot of his chusim because Hashem had to do something, a little bit supernatural for that to happen. But you can't do anything good or bad. But it's a din. I have to do Ishtadlus. I have to do Ishtadlus. You live like that, guys. Life is this. I much have to run. I love you all, guys. I wish I could carry on because I just love talking about this topic. Guys, just Emunah Yichya!